Hello, I'm Dr. Debi. Welcome to my weekly podcast. This is a safe place where men are respected and women are valued. In marriage, it's seen as a passionate partnership created through the synergy of his strength and her beauty. Today, we're kicking off a short two-part series I'm calling Wired to Love and Be Loved. In part one, we're talking about becoming attached, how your early experiences set a baseline framework for how you understand love and connection in the most intimate of your relationships. In part two, we'll look at how his story and her story have developed very differently from the very beginning. But today is all about you and your romantic attachment style. For more than 25 years, I worked with men, women, and couples in private practice and in university settings. I loved the work. But there was always something that bothered me about the traditional therapy model. As psychologists, we're trained to carry around this mental map of what healthy development looks like. We're supposed to quietly use that map to guide our questions, our techniques, and our interventions. But we're never instructed to teach you the map. Instead, we apply it to our work with you without really explaining why we're focusing on one thing and not another, or even what we hope you'll discover about yourself in the process. And that always felt totally backwards to me. So I eventually closed my practice to focus on what I love most, teaching men and women the actual framework so you can see for yourself what's really happening in your heart and in your marriage. No secrets, no hidden model. You get the same map I was trained on and used in my work with couples for decades. That's what we're doing today with attachment theory. So what is attachment theory? When psychologists talk about attachment, we're not just talking about whether your parents were good or bad. We're asking a very specific question. Did you have someone who was generally available and responsive to your emotional needs? Not perfect, not flawless, just good enough most of the time. As a baby and as a child, you needed someone who would notice your distress, move toward you, and soothe you, often enough that your nervous system learned, I'm not alone, my feelings matter, and someone will show up for me. Those repeated experiences created a baseline framework inside you, and that framework created beliefs such as, I'm lovable, people will be there for me, or I'm too much. It's safer not to need anyone. That framework is what we call your attachment style. But before we dive in, there's an important nuance I want you to hear. Generally speaking, you don't have just one global framework that covers every relationship. Yes, you have one baseline framework from childhood, but it can show up differently in different contexts. For example, you could be pretty secure in your friendships, but at the same time, very fearful and guarded in romance. Same history, same nervous system, but romance is more vulnerable. So the old relationship framework often shows up in its most intense form in that intimate relationship. That's why you can be strong and steady at work, a great friend, and still feel like a scared teenager when your husband feels distant or your wife seems upset. Romantic attachment is where your framework speaks the loudest. Over time, we've noticed 4 common frameworks in how people do attachment in romance. I'm going to use my own names for them because I want this to feel clear and human, not clinical. The 4 are secure, focused, detached, and fearful. Remember, this is just a starting map, not a permanent label. You can grow, you can heal, you can change. Let's walk through each one. First, the secure style. If your romantic attachment is mostly secure, it doesn't mean your childhood was perfect. It means you had enough experiences of someone being there for you that your inner message sounds like, I'm basically lovable. When I'm upset, I can reach out and somebody will probably respond. In romance, secure partners still feel anxious at times. They still get emotional and they still worry. But when something feels off, they tend to move toward their mate. They say things like, "Hey, something's bothering me. Can we talk?" And after they talk, they usually feel calmer, more connected, and ready to move forward. Second, the focus style, often called anxious or preoccupied. If your style is focused, your attention locks onto the relationship very intensely. You're constantly scanning for, "Are we okay?" Your inner message sounds like, "I really need closeness, but I'm not sure it will last." So you may worry about the relationship almost constantly. Read into tone of voice and facial expressions things that may not be there. Rehearse conversations in your head over and over. Try to talk things through right now because the anxiety feels unbearable. And when you're in that mode, you might come across as angry, critical, demanding, controlling, even though underneath all of that is simply, "Please don't leave me alone in this. Please show me that I still matter to you." If any of that resonates, you may lean toward a focused romantic attachment style. Third, the detached style, often called dismissing. If your style is detached, you learn somewhere along the way that it's safer not to need anyone. Your inner message sounds like, "I'm fine on my own. Ugh, emotions are messy." And intimacy? Who needs that? You may value independence way more than emotional closeness. You might even feel irritated by relationship talks. You might shut down when conversations get intense. Assume other people are too emotional, or even say that. Detached partners often don't even realize how disconnected they feel. They're not typically the ones Googling relationship help or signing up for workshops. They think, "We're fine, it's not that big of a deal." On the outside, they can look calm, logical, and in control. On the inside, they've simply mastered the ability to push their own needs way, way down and completely out of sight. Fourth, the fearful style, often called fearful avoidant. The fearful style is a painful combination of wanting closeness and being terrified of it at the same time. The inner message sounds like, "I really long for love, but if I let you get close, you're going to hurt me, reject me, or leave." So a fearful partner might crave intimacy, actually reach out, get close, and then suddenly pull back, go quiet, and sabotage the connection. Not because they don't care, but because vulnerability feels dangerous. They expect to be disappointed, criticized, or abandoned, so they protect themselves by staying on the edge of connection, close enough to feel something, but still distant enough to feel safe. Now let's think about your marriage. Which styles are most likely to get stuck in a negative pattern with a mate? Usually, it's not the secure couple. They can still struggle, but they have more flexibility and more effective repair skills when there is a conflict of some kind or even a small disagreement. Now, detached partners may look calm, but if they're with a mate who really wants intimacy, that distance can be deeply painful for that mate. Focused and fearful styles are especially vulnerable to getting stuck in a pattern I see all the time. One partner gets anxious and pursues, the other feels overwhelmed and pulls away. The more one pursues, the more the other withdraws. The more the other withdraws, the more abandoned the pursuer feels. Round and round it goes. That's not about either partner being crazy or uncaring. It's your attachment frameworks bumping into each other under stress. Now, I want you to hear this part clearly. Your attachment style is a learned framework, not your identity. It's a snapshot of how your nervous system learned to protect you and seek connection based on your earliest experiences. It's not a life sentence. You could be focused and learn to soothe your anxiety and reach for your mate in calmer, clearer ways. You could be detached and learn to notice your emotions and slowly let yourself be known. You could be fearful and gently build experiences of safe connection that teach your nervous system maybe love can be safe. Even a secure partner has room to grow, especially in how they love someone whose story is different from theirs. A healthy marriage is a passionate partnership. It's not created by two perfect, fully healed people. It's created by two human beings who are willing to understand their own story, honor their mate's story, and learn a new framework of connection on purpose. Your attachment style is simply the starting point for that journey. It explains why certain conversations feel so hard, why you may feel so emotional by things your mate does or doesn't do, and why "let's talk about it" is not always a realistic solution. If you're wondering, okay, but which style am I? Well, I've created a simple free resource for you. It's called your Romantic Attachment Style Quiz. It will help you identify your primary attachment style in romance, see how that style tends to show up under stress, and begin to understand what a healthier framework could look like for you. You'll find the link to the quiz in the show notes for this episode. Take it for yourself. Then, if you're feeling brave, invite your mate to take it too and compare notes. Remember, you're not grading yourself, you're gaining clarity. And clarity is always the first step toward change. In our next episode, we'll continue this mini-series by looking at how boys and girls are often shaped very differently in their emotional development. We'll talk about why so many men seem to shut down or distance themselves, why so many women feel alone and unheard, and how those experiences set the stage for very different expectations about love and communication. You are not crazy, you are not broken. You've each just been shaped by very different stories. My goal is to help you both see those stories clearly so you can write a better one together. Thanks for spending this time with me. And don't forget to grab your Romantic Attachment Style Quiz in the show notes, and I'll see you next time for part 2.